Remember those lazy summer days?
Yeah.
Um, you know, firing up the grill, maybe digging into an ice-cold treat from the freezer.
Yeah.
No, imagine the horror of reaching for that popsicle
Yeah.
and finding, well, not a popsicle.
Oh.
That's the nightmarish reality for one family whose story we'll dive into today, alongside 4 other cases that'll have you double-checking your locks
Yeah.
and maybe sleeping with the lights on.
It's true. These cases are as chilling as they are fascinating. They really make you think about the dark side of human nature and how even the most ordinary lives can be touched by the extraordinary, sometimes in the most unsettling ways.
Okay, let's start with a case that hits close to home for many of us.
Mm-hmm.
The tragic story of Mitchell Deng, a 25-year-old vlogger from Atlanta, if you're on social media. You know the type, vibrant, adventurous,
Mm-hmm.
always sharing those perfectly filtered snapshots of life.
It's almost like we get to know these online personalities, even if we've never met them in person. So when something terrible happens, it feels personal.
Exactly. And for Mitchell, it all went wrong one night at a concert at the Alley Cat venue. She went to meet friends. What should have been a fun night out turned into a parent's worst nightmare.
What's particularly unsettling is that there was a 4-day gap between her disappearance and the discovery of her body. Those missing hours are crucial in any investigation, and they only add to the mystery and the anguish for her loved ones.
He was a parking lot attendant who stumbled upon the grim scene. He noticed a foul odor and followed it to a staircase in the parking garage. There, hidden from view, was Mitchell's body, already decomposing. She still had on the Alley Cat wristband from the concert, but her clothing had been removed. It's a detail that really brings home the brutality of what happened.
It's a stark reminder that predators often target public spaces, places we think of as safe, and they often prey on vulnerability, which is why it's so important to be aware of our surroundings and to trust our instincts. If something feels off, it probably is.
Absolutely. Now, security footage from the venue led investigators to a 24-year-old named Jacavius Arnold. He was seen approaching Mitchell outside the venue, posing as a good Samaritan offering to help her find her car. It's a classic tactic used by predators, preying on someone's need for help.
It's a chilling reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected places, even in the guise of someone offering assistance. It's a stark contrast between the perceived safety of a crowded venue and the reality of vulnerability in a moment of need.
And, tragically, that's exactly what happened to Mitchell. The footage shows Arnold leading her away from the crowds and eventually into that parking garage. And that's where he strangled her and horrifyingly raped her before leaving her body and fleeing the scene.
It's a truly horrific crime. What's even more disturbing is that the detective who interviewed Arnold after his arrest shared that he confessed to watching crime shows on TV, seemingly trying to learn how to cover his tracks. He even tried to dispose of Mitchell's body, but ultimately failed.
It's almost as if he was living out some twisted fantasy inspired by those crime dramas. The list of charges against him is extensive: murder, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and even necrophilia. It paints a picture of a deeply disturbed individual capable of unspeakable acts.
It really makes you wonder what goes on in the mind of someone who commits such heinous acts. Are there warning signs? Could these tragedies be prevented? These are questions that criminologists and psychologists grapple with constantly. And unfortunately, there are no easy answers.
Let's shift gears now to a case that's been all over the news for months. The Alex Murdaugh saga, as you may recall. He's a South Carolina lawyer who was convicted of murdering his wife and son in a case that gripped the nation. But there's a new development that has everyone talking.
Yes, Murdaugh's defense team has filed a motion for a new trial, alleging jury tampering by the court clerk Becky Hill. They're claiming she had undue influence over the jurors, even going so far as to instruct them to disregard Murdaugh's testimony and not let it sway their decision.
It sounds like something out of a John Grisham novel. And to make matters even more dramatic, the defense claims Hill was motivated by personal gain, alleging that she was seeking a book deal and media attention.
Of course, the state has fired back, arguing that the defense's motion is procedurally flawed and lacks substantial evidence. They've requested the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED as it's commonly known, to investigate these tampering claims.
So we're left with conflicting accounts. Becky Hill has denied the allegations under oath, while the defense is pushing for the jurors to testify and corroborate their claims.
It's a classic legal battle, with each side vying to control the narrative and ultimately influence the outcome.
Murdaugh's defense team seems to be pulling out all the stops. They've even attempted to have the judge removed from the case, arguing that he's biased against their client.
It's a high-stakes gamble. It raises important questions about the integrity of the judicial process and how external factors can influence jury decisions. Can we truly trust the system to deliver impartial justice when accusations like these fly?
Now, imagine this. You've just moved into your dream home, unpacking boxes, excited for a fresh start. But that excitement turns to sheer terror when you stumble upon the decomposing body of a teenager hidden inside an overturned freezer in your backyard.
It's a scene straight out of a horror movie, but for one family, it was all too real.
This is the tragic case of 19-year-old Logan Holstead, a young man who lived with spina bifida. His body was discovered by the new owners of a home in a seemingly quiet neighborhood. The investigation quickly led to the arrest of Logan's parents, Michael and Karen Holstead.
They're now facing charges of reckless manslaughter and corpse abuse. What's particularly baffling is that the parents had moved out of this rental home some time ago, leaving the freezer behind with Logan's body still inside.
Weeks before the gruesome discovery, Michael Holstead even called the police, cryptically claiming he had done something. But officers searched the property and inexplicably didn't find the body.
This raises a whole host of questions. What happened to Logan? Why wasn't his body discovered sooner? And what led to this unthinkable act of leaving him in a freezer? It's a case that's as perplexing as it is heartbreaking.
It's a stark reminder that even in seemingly idyllic neighborhoods, darkness can lurk behind closed doors.
It also raises serious questions about our social safety net. Were there missed opportunities to intervene and protect Logan? Could this tragedy have been prevented? These are questions that haunt us as we try to make sense of such a senseless loss.
It's a case that really makes you question how such a horrific thing could happen, especially to someone so vulnerable. But amidst the tragedy, there's also the question of justice. The charges against Logan's parents,
Right.
reckless manslaughter and corpse abuse, seem shockingly lenient to some, considering the gravity of their actions.
You're right. It does seem like a disconnect between the severity of the crime and the potential consequences. Some people are arguing that corpse abuse, which often carries a lighter sentence, doesn't adequately address the profound loss of life and the callous disregard for Logan's dignity.
It's a tough pill to swallow. How can discarding a loved one's body like that be met with what feels like a slap on the wrist? It raises a crucial question about how our legal system values and protects the lives of individuals with disabilities. Are we doing enough?
That's a question that deserves serious consideration. This case has sparked a much-needed conversation about disability rights, societal responsibility, and whether our laws truly reflect our values when it comes to protecting the most vulnerable among us.
It's a conversation we can't afford to ignore. Now, shifting gears to a case that feels like it was ripped from the pages of a tabloid. A beauty queen, a murder-for-hire plot, and a messy divorce playing out in the public eye.
It's the kind of story that makes you wonder if truth is stranger than fiction.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Lindsay Shiver, a former beauty queen from Georgia who's been accused of plotting to kill her husband, Robert Shiver.
It all started when police in the Bahamas were investigating a break-in at a local bar where Lindsay's alleged lover, Terrence Bethel, worked. During their search, they stumbled upon some very incriminating WhatsApp messages on Terrence's phone.
And what exactly did those messages say?
Well, according to reports, Lindsay allegedly texted, "Kill him," along with a picture of her husband. That discovery led to her arrest. And she spent 19 days in a Bahamian jail before being released on a hefty $100,000 bail.
That's quite a turn of events for a former beauty queen. But the plot thickens.
Right.
Oh.
Or absolutely. This alleged murder-for-hire scheme is apparently intertwined with a very contentious divorce between Lindsay and Robert, who comes from a wealthy family, had filed for divorce accusing Lindsay of infidelity.
So, a classic love triangle gone wrong.
Not so fast. Lindsay claimed that any affairs she had occurred during legal separations from Robert. She also accused him of abuse and financial manipulation. It's a classic he said, she said scenario, with both sides painting very different pictures of their relationship and the events leading up to this alleged plot.
It sounds like a real-life soap opera, with the added twist of a potential murder plot.
Exactly. And then there's the financial aspect. The divorce proceedings revealed some serious financial disputes. Robert was trying to control their assets, and Lindsay was demanding alimony and access to their lavish lifestyle. Some people have speculated that the alleged hit on Robert was financially motivated, with Lindsay potentially seeking a larger share of their wealth in the divorce settlement.
So love, money, and maybe even a touch of revenge. This case has it all.
It does, and it raises some fascinating questions about how quickly a seemingly perfect life can unravel. It's a reminder that we never truly know what goes on behind closed doors, even in the most picture-perfect families.
And speaking of picture-perfect, social media has played a significant role in this case, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Lindsay's social media posts, particularly after her arrest, offer a glimpse into her emotional state and her perspective on the situation. For example, on her birthday, she posted a quote that hinted at her turmoil. talking about a weight being lifted off her shoulders one day.
It's almost as if she's trying to control the narrative, presenting herself as a victim rather than a villain.
It's a fascinating example of how social media can be used as a tool for self-preservation, even in the face of serious accusations. It allows individuals to connect with the public directly, bypassing traditional media outlets and potentially swaying public opinion.
It's a double-edged sword, though. Social media can just as easily be used to condemn someone, especially in a case as sensational as this one.
You're right. And we've seen that play out in real time as this case has unfolded. Public opinion has shifted back and forth as new evidence has emerged, with some people convinced of Lindsay's guilt and others believing she's been set up.
One of the most interesting aspects of this case is how public opinion has been influenced by Lindsay's responses to social media comments.
Yes, there was that instance where someone commented on one of her posts about Savannah Chrisley, the daughter of reality TV stars Todd and Julie Chrisley.
Oh, right, and she's now dating Robert Shiver. Correct. Adding another layer of drama to this already tangled web.
Exactly. The commenter suggested that Savannah might become a mother figure to Lindsay's children. And Lindsay's response was very pointed. They already have one, and I'm not going anywhere.
It's a statement that suggests she's fighting for her family and her role as a mother, despite the serious accusations against her.
It's a reminder that even amidst the chaos and scandal, there's a very human element to this story. 3 children are caught in the crossfire, their lives irrevocably altered by the choices their parents have made.
It's a sobering thought. Now, before we move on to our final case, I want to pause for a moment and ask you, what's been the most surprising or thought-provoking element of these cases for you so far?
That's a great question. I think what struck me the most is the way these cases expose the fragility of life and the unexpected turns it can take. We see individuals making choices, both good and bad, that have profound consequences, not only for themselves, but for everyone around them.
That's a powerful insight. It reminds us that we're all connected in ways we might not always realize, and that our actions have ripple effects that extend far beyond our immediate circle.
Precisely. And it underscores the importance of empathy and understanding. Even in the face of horrific acts, we can seek to understand the motivations behind these crimes, the societal factors that contribute to them, and the systemic failures that sometimes allow them to occur, without condoning the actions themselves.
Well said. Let's delve into our final case for today. It's a story that hits close to home for many of us. Betrayal of trust that's sadly all too common. A teacher accused of having sex with a student.
It's a case that raises uncomfortable but crucial questions about power dynamics, consent, and the long-term impact of abuse, especially when it involves a young person in a vulnerable position.
We're talking about Melissa Marie Curtis, a former middle school teacher in Maryland.
Curtis, now 31, is facing charges related to a relationship she allegedly had with an 8th grade student 8 years ago when he was just 14 years old. The victim, now an adult, came forward with these allegations, prompting a police investigation that's uncovered a deeply disturbing pattern of abuse.
This case really challenges the stereotype we often see in these situations. We're so used to hearing about male teachers abusing their female students. But here we have a female teacher accused of abusing a male student.
You're right, it does flip the script. And it's a vital reminder that abuse can occur in any direction. Anyone, regardless of gender, can be a perpetrator or a victim. It's about power and control, not about gender.
Absolutely. It's crucial to recognize that abuse of power is not limited by gender, and we need to be vigilant in protecting all young people from those who would exploit their vulnerability.
And this case is a stark reminder that this kind of abuse can happen anywhere, even in seemingly safe environments like schools. We need to be having open and honest conversations about consent boundaries and the warning signs of abuse, not just with young people, but with adults as well.
That's a great point. Sometimes as adults, we can be oblivious to the subtle signs of grooming and manipulation that predators use to gain access to their victims. We need to educate ourselves so we can better protect those around us.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. And in cases like this, it can be the key to prevention. Now, going back to the specifics of this case, the details of the alleged abuse are particularly disturbing, according to court documents. It spanned several months in 2015, occurring not only at the school, but also in Curtis's car and at various residences.
And to make matters even worse, there are accusations that she supplied the victim with alcohol and marijuana. That adds another layer of manipulation and exploitation to this already horrifying story.
It's a classic example of how perpetrators use tactics to groom their victims, making them feel special, loved, or indebted to them. It makes it even harder for them to recognize the abuse and seek help. They may feel confused, ashamed, or even responsible for what's happening.
It's heartbreaking to think about the lasting impact this kind of abuse can have on a young person's life. They may struggle with trust, intimacy, and self-worth for years to come.
You're absolutely right. And it's important to remember that it often takes years for survivors to come to terms with what happened to them and to find the courage to speak out. The fact that the victim in this case waited 8 years before reporting the abuse underscores the importance of believing survivors when they come forward. No matter how much time has passed.
We need to create an environment where they feel safe and empowered to share their stories without fear of judgment or retaliation.
Absolutely. And we need to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions. Regardless of their position of authority or how much time has elapsed, justice delayed shouldn't mean justice denied.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in protecting the vulnerable, whether it's speaking up when we see something wrong or creating a culture where survivors feel safe coming forward.
Yeah.
These cases are a stark reminder that even in seemingly ordinary lives, darkness can lurk beneath the surface.
They really challenge us to confront the uncomfortable realities of our world and to ask ourselves what we can do to make it a safer place for everyone.
These cases are a heavy but important reminder that the world can be a dangerous place. But they also highlight the resilience of the human spirit and the power of speaking truth to power. They challenge us to ask tough questions, to examine our own beliefs, and to work towards creating a world where justice prevails and everyone feels safe and valued.
It's a journey we all must embark on, individually and collectively, and these conversations are an important step in that direction.
Well said. If you're as fascinated by these cases as we are and want to explore them further, we've included links to additional information in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the world around us, where we'll continue to unravel mysteries, explore the human experience, and spark thought-provoking conversations. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
And remember, there's always more to learn, more to question, and more to discuss.